I well, it was called. You say seditious, I say so delicious. But when I started writing the piece, I realized that I liked to talk about the quality of information, and I started writing something completely different. And so I built off something called. I wrote a piece called "The Morality of Information," and it's a very sexy name for this piece. So I'm going to read that, the thing I've prepared for you today. There's a lot of bad information out there. The recipe for napalm, grooming techniques, vomit porn, all things I would rather not know about. When I say bad information, bad might be a characteristic of the information. The info lets you do bad things. Sometimes bad information is incomplete information. To make an informed decision to buy a house or to send your child to a school or to vote, we need information on the options. If we don't have enough information, we might choose not to choose until a better option comes along. So far so good. If bad information is incomplete information, then complete information is good information. So, say, child sexual abuse. To act on a case of child sexual abuse, if you're not the offender, an adult can handle a disclosure from a child. That means an adult is prepared for a child to speak to him about surviving an incident of sexual abuse, but he's not sure which child it's going to be. He's simply ready for it. He's ready to apply the information as and when it's needed. Perhaps we can say that good information is also actionable information, information where it makes it possible to take action on something. And when I started thinking about this, I kept returning to Najib's speech in 2009 at the Malaysian Press Awards, where he said, "We need world-class fact-based reporting in Malaysia. The media must be fair and responsible in your reporting. It is crucial if we are to foster a constructive debate about our nation's future." The kind of reporting Najib's talking about lets us take action. And it's odd because in taking the media to task, he doesn't use the word freedom. The role of freedom in the scheme of information, I feel, and you might disagree with me, the role of freedom is in groping towards good information. We move towards a complete understanding of the stuff we care about, but we may never actually arrive at a complete understanding. We may not get to a point where we no longer need information about, say, sedition or, say, the banning of a certain book. So where do you get information? Some info is harder to get than other info. If you go deep enough into any issue, the problem of access arises. How do you get this information? People ask questions like, why do you need this information? And what do you do again? And you may not be in a position to get the whole story. Access affects the completeness of information, whether or not it's good or bad. And that, of course, puts you in conflict with regulation, because regulation affects access. Sonia Rondawa once wrote, "I've lived in 2 countries, Australia and the UK, where porn wasn't banned but regulated, and 1 country, Malaysia, where it is banned. It's in Malaysia that I've had the most porn literally thrust in my face, primarily by VCD sellers." This was several years ago. But before that, by video sellers and distributors. And I'm sure that there were others before my time. In other countries, I could avoid it. I knew where it was. Or, of course, I could seek it out if I wanted to. In Malaysia, because it's unregulated, I don't really have that choice. And then there's the problem with the definitions of porn, because the little Napoleons that our former PM complained about take it upon themselves to include books on breastfeeding as porn. And books on mutual sexual satisfaction are often considered pornographic. What comes across from that quote I just read is that when taboos are banned, they end up getting regulated anyways. There's an informal regulation mechanism, and they get regulated poorly. there's an economist, his name is Niels Gilman, and he observed that when you're trying to ban certain goods, these governments, they go after the demand. They say, okay, you can't buy this stuff, and we'll eliminate the places in which you can obtain it. But they don't do anything about the supply. And so he talks about a sociologist, a French sociologist named Émile Durkheim, who observed that societies are to a large extent made up of and defined by their taboos. That is, by what they prohibit either morally or, in the case of modern societies, legally. And that's true, right? The limits of behavior corresponds to what is and is not permissible. It's okay to buy a car. It is not okay to buy sex. It is okay to talk about Rosma. It is not okay to talk about Altantuya. Yes. Well, maybe it's not okay to talk about Rosma either.